Yo, dude.
Oh, what's up?
What are we filming today?
Well, Colton, to understand where we're going, we have to know where we've been.
Today on T-Rex Arms, we're doing a one take. Okay. For sure, all alphas, maybe one Charlie lost a mag.
We have to go deeper.
If you've ever had an Apache attack helicopter give you dad advice, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, guys. Run, Jeremy!
No, deeper.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Forgotten Weapons. And today we're looking at a weapon that is not that forgotten at all. We're looking at the Beretta PX4 Storm.
We're here.
Now, one thing about this gun that is really unfortunate is that it is actually of Italian design and not French, which, as you all should know by now, I am much more sympathetic to the French cause. And unlike Administrative Results, who is weirdly into British weapons, I am weirdly into French weapons.
A big question, how is the gun's mouthfeel? Oh. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Administrative Results channel. If you're watching this, that means we are in 2025, and this is the first video in Administrative Results in the new year. The unrelenting march of time is ever unforgiving, and we keep spinning around this rock. All right, so today we're going over the Beretta PX4 Storm. Now, this one has been tricked out by a local Arizona company, Langdon Tactical. I have had some of their work on the channel before. The Beretta 92 that was tricked out by Langdon Tactical. The Beretta 3022 that was on Managerial Outcomes. The HKP30L has been on the channel before. I'm a rather big fan of their work. I've even had them swap out triggers on my HK-USP45 and HK-USP-C. So when they reached out, probably well back in the last year, I've actually had this gun for quite a bit now. They said, hey, we have this Beretta PX4 Storm. Are you interested in taking a look at it? Now, there was no exchange of money, and I was thinking, no. The Beretta PX4 has never been one of those guns where I was like, wow, that looks super cool. I have to have it. When I saw this version of it, I thought, okay, perhaps we're really onto something. There isn't much going on, but there's a lot going on. The double action got me. It's a Charlie on that double action shot. Put this bush here. God! What if we just kept going back and back and we end up on the mountain just like, This feels like 50 yards. 50 yards for handgun shooting is pretty far. Headshot. Let's check out the results. The administrative results. Before we started that course of fire, moving it out to certain distances, already had 3 rounds in the A zone from about probably 7 yards, just shooting up close. Once we started to open up, I would say probably around the 25-yard mark, my shot groups really started to open up, especially doing the double action. I think I had a flyer, well, not a flyer, but a Charlie up here. And then of course, moving it out to further and further distance, things have started to open up. I will say, despite whatever mics I may have had not recorded on that course of fire, my headshot not doing too bad. The single action is pretty solid. Like most double action, single action guns, when you get to the single action, it shoots nicer. Who would have thought, right? Gentlemen, videos like this are made possible thanks to sponsors like Americana, PipeDreamApparel.com, fantastic young Zoomers getting after the milsurf space and arena. They have a plethora of stuff to take your LARP to the next level. Night vision knives, manuals, and yes, they may have even knives that glow in the dark and night vision. I don't know, I've just made that up. They even sell e-bikes. Go check them out. Link for them will be in the description down below. We also have to give a big thank you to Optics Planet, the optics sponsor of the channel. And of course, ammo provided to shoot the video was done by Badlands Munitions. Local Arizona guys sponsoring the ammo consumption and my lead poisoning that goes into making these videos, and it helps out a bunch. So a big appreciation to those guys. Now back to the video. you imagine doing like, there's 3 rapscallions and then you instantly go for their pelvic girdles? I can't stress enough how uninterested I was in the PX4 Storm platform until seeing what LTT did to it. Now, personally for me, when it comes to the PX4 Storm, it has been one of those guns, and along with the other variants of it, that I have turned my nose up to. I saw it based on looks alone. I thought it was a uglier gun. Now, I believe the backstory is that Ernest Langdon built this out, and he was like, you know what, we'll sell these because he likes them a lot, and he was just burning it down on the range, and he's like, guys are gonna like this. I think that's the backstory. When I saw his rendition of it, okay, that's when I started to pique my interest. So I think what takes the cake with this build is their compensator setup that they have for it. There are some pros and cons to it. The con, we'll get to in a second, but the pros is how it tames recoil, and it's a very simple attachment to your gun. Okay, I'll definitely say that little compensator on top does its job and it works. Now, the compensator itself, I think, is geniusly connected to the Surefire X300 with the screws going into it. On the first rendition of this gun that I got, there were some problems that I was having. Part of it was user error, part of it was their error. I got the first compensator from them and they had to do a recall on those to get me a new one. It's okay, it's how it goes. Now, when I got the second compensator in, it came with the wrong attachment piece that goes into the Surefire. Inside of this little comp here, you have the Surefire lever, or you have the Surefire tab in there, or you have the little tab in there that's kind of like the Picatinny adapter, and it goes and it fits into your gun's little railed slot down there. So when I got the new compensator after the recall, there was the wrong tab for it. It was a little bit too small. I forgot the nomenclature for the Surefire tabs. If I'm being honest, this one is the, shit, I can't see. This is the U tab. I think the other one was like an I or S tab, can't remember. So I had to swap out the tabs because that one was too small, and when you were shooting, it would come off the gun. When I did swap over to this U tab, and maybe it's still not technically the right tab because I had to shave down some material on it to get it to fit inside of this little rail down there. But then once I did that, after shooting it now, and the gun's unloaded, everything has been working how it should be. It's locked in there. It's not coming off the gun like how it was. Nature of the beast, I'm not gonna hold that against them whatsoever. The second error I was having, and there's always a plane. Why don't we get to the talking? I feel like there was never a plane when we were shooting. Hey, new year, same tomfoolery and shenanigans. The second error we were having was malfunctions of the gun. It would do this weird thing where it would get to like right here when chambering, and I'd have to like give it a tap on the back. Talking to the guys at LTT when I brought the gun in, they were saying that this gun likes to be lubed up and I wasn't lubing it enough. So that one's on me. So after that, got the gun, lubed it up a bunch, and it has been chugging along rather nicely, minus the 2 that we have, and I think I was limp wristing it, so I will put that on me. I noticed that this gun does not like a limp wrist whatsoever. If you're doing like, it's kind of like a technique, it's probably not right whatsoever, but if you're kind of like doing the one-handed, you're trying to hold it steady so you're not putting a lot of pressure behind the gun, it can kind of be like a limp wrist, and that's where we had those. Why would you do that in the real scenario? Hopefully not, you know, hopefully you're not using this and you got shot in the arm, so you're like, oh. Things can go awry though. Things can go south quickly. Headshots. We're going for headshots. Oh, clean credit card. I mean, like, I'm 7 yards away, but feels good. Now, when we got the gun, I say we, when I got the gun, it had the flared magwell, and I liked that flared magwell. I found that it wasn't too obtrusive compared to some others, and it complemented the looks nicely. Probably when we do the thumbnail for this video, I'll throw it back on because it does look that much better. That being said, some of the stock mags for the PX4 would not work with it because it takes a different base plate that goes into it. Because the mags I got with the gun, I got 2 of them, and I got some more mags, so for the shooting process, I could speed it up. My target fell over. These base plate mags work, and you can kind of see why, but the other more stock ones with the black base plate at the bottom did not work with that flared magwell. So to speed up the shooting process, I got rid of the flared magwell so I could use more mags without having to replace the base plates, because sometimes I'm just lazy like that. I should probably just get some new base plates because the flared magwell does go pretty hard. I got a gray handle it grips on here. I think it looks nice and it feels good with the texture. And typically if I do carry concealed now, I will run an undershirt of some kind. Then on top we have the hollow sun enclosed emitter optic. Typically I'm more of an acro guy, an aim point acro guy, but it came with the gun, so I decided to run it. What the heck, why not? So in my dot on this hollow sun, it's so far right. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but like where I want to shoot is where the round's going, so I'm not mad at it. amongst the house of horrors. Looks like the front sight post is also coming loose. Get over there. Get back over there. I was like, why am my iron so cattywampus from my dot? That's why. I keep forgetting that my front sight post is not aligned and I gotta get it fixed. It's a little cattywampus. But I've been using the dot mostly, so what do you do? Now, of course, this is a double action gun, meaning that before you fire the first round, there is a long trigger pull, at which point the gun will then go to a single action, which is a much crisper trigger pull. And I believe it's the gray guns trigger in there. And the trigger, I will say, is very nice. It has that signature lengthy trigger, so you get a little leverage on it for that double action. It takes a little bit of getting used to if you're not used to double action. I know probably a lot of you guys aren't, depending on what gun you like to run, if you're big Glock guys or whatever else, Staccato, 2011. But once you get worked up to it, it isn't that bad. One thing that I do notice is a tendency to throw rounds on the double action, especially if you're in a hurry. It's one of those training curves. Like, I know it's probably not kosher, but sometimes I even think like, okay, there's a really long shot, just real quick, getting the gun out, getting that hammer back, and then you already have it in the single action. Probably not kosher in the whole grand scheme of things, but I mean, if it's your gunfight, you can do whatever you want. No one's gonna stop you, unless you're in the wrong. Like if you're a bad guy, then someone's gonna stop you. What did bro mean by that? Now on the pistol, we have an ambidextrous decocker, but no ambidextrous mag release. Now one thing I do like about double actions is that you can decock it and you have a double action in your pants, meaning the trigger's harder to pull, and it's only gonna go off when that hammer drops. So I like that kind of thing when it's pointed right at your manhood. It's one of those things I'll talk about where like I'll still carry Glocks, but like for whatever reason, I can't shake that boomerism, that ever so small fear that it may go off. I know it's not gonna happen. I know it's not a thing. But for whatever reason, it's always like when I get a double action, I feel that much better when it's in my pants.
Huh?
Now, a big downside to the whole cool compensator setup is the lack of holster options that were on the market. I don't know if there has been a new amount since the time when I first got the gun months ago. There was like nothing. I tried using a Black Hawk Omnivore holster and I hate that holster. There was really not a lot going on. Tier 1 Concealed had a holster for it, but it didn't have the compensator setup and I didn't get the light option for it. It wasn't until I gave this gun to LAS Concealment. Jeff, he took it, had his guys work on it, and they got me a inside the waistband holster for with and without the compensator, and then an outside the waistband holster for just burning it down on the flat range. So that helps out a lot when you're doing a video that goes over a handgun, because when I do these kind of things, I like to try and get as many of the pieces together as possible so you get a good picture of the puzzle that you have to put together. I like to put PX4 on the holster. Not because I don't know what holster it is, but because when you're in your garage, 13 beers deep, listening to Creed, and you're having to go through your holster bin, it's just nice to see it and know exactly what it is. The more you know. Now the gun's operating system isn't like your typical pistol that you probably have. It's not like a Glock that operates off of a tilt barrel system or the tilt recoil, whatever you want to call it. This is a short recoil locked breech, which means that it rotates, the barrel rotates on the recoil inside of that slide, which is kind of interesting. If I can take it apart for you real quick. There you have your barrel, where you can see that it has the rotating aspect to it, which is kind of interesting, a little bit different. If you're one of those guys that fancies something like that, more power to you. I found that it actually had a lot of pop culture references when I threw it into the IMFDB search machine. I found that it showed up in plenty of TV shows, movies, video games. It was even in the A-Team, like both the full-size and the compact version of the PX4. The movie Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio, 2009. A Dream Within a Dream Within a Dream, he's running around using the PX4 Storm, and he has the silencer that he throws on it. It never really got into any of the heavy hitter mainstream shooters, so it seemed like I was looking for Battlefield or Call of Duty, and it never showed up. I think that, and this is another completely different side tangent on the pop culture reference, I think that in this configuration, it would boost the likelihood that it could show up. The gun has a sci-fi look to it. It kind of looks a little bit more futuristic, slightly foreign, doesn't have the blocky shape of a Glock, doesn't have the older silhouette of say like a 2011 or 1911, and it may just be slightly unrecognizable enough to have that suspension of disbelief for people that may know a little bit about guns, but not a lot about every model of gun if they're watching some sort of like movie that takes place in 100 years from now. I think it could potentially fill that gap. That's a tangent that no one asked for, but if you clicked on this video, you deserve because you clicked on this video. Another thing on top of pop culture references that I like to look at when it comes to firearms is who is picking up a gun like this to be used. And when I was browsing a quick, just expedited browsing of Wikipedia, which of course may not be the best research option, but I was looking at it for a handgun and I wasn't planning on going too super into depth on like, you know, forgotten weapon style of everything. So it worked out for my C-level academia brain. Maryland State Police and I think a sheriff's department in Ohio were using the PX4. I don't know the current status of it right now, if they still are. I still have a hard time thinking that like the high speed, high tier guys are gonna be using a Beretta PX4. I have yet to see any photos of that. If you guys have seen it, please let me know. So that's one thing that goes against a gun like this, considering within the American firearms zeitgeist, so much of it revolves around chasing what the cool guys have and wanting to have that for yourself. The gun itself, I think, does not fall into a really cool collectible category. So if you're like, oh, I want to collect this, why? You know, like what is there about it besides the movie Inception and that whole silencer? Maybe I could see that if you got like an Inception Leonardo DiCaprio pistol, but I will only stick to Leonardo DiCaprio Blood Diamond movies for my cloning purposes, in that it's already pushing my max turbo virgin card, so I got to keep that dialed in. As far as the gun performance goes, the recoil control, how it's shot, once we got past those hiccups and shooting it now and having it for this long, I will say that the gun is actually very fun to shoot. Go figure, right? Most guns that I have on are pretty fun to shoot. The recoil control, the feeling of it, how low, it kind of feels like a lower bore axis in your hand, even though the slide looks kind of tall. Now real quick, I want to demonstrate with and without the compensator on the gun. Okay, I'll definitely say that little compensator on top does its job and it works. Typically when you throw a comp on most guns, they become a little bit more pleasant to shoot. With that compensator paired with that trigger in the single action stage, you can really burn this gun down fast. And I know for a fact there are much better shooters than myself out there, and you guys could tear it down. I think I did come across a gentleman, and forgive me, I don't know your page name, it's because it's been many months since I saw this, but he was actually running this variation of the PX4 Storm in a competition, and he was just running and gunning and doing really well. It's got to be one of the more slept on variations of handguns out there. And if you don't like the PX4 Storm, I can't blame you. I still don't really like it that much, unless Langdon Tactical touches it, then I get all giddy like a schoolgirl and think it's cool, but that's just my own vices because I'm built different like that. I will say, looking at this PX4 Storm, it is like looking at the girl that was like ugly, but then had a glow up because she figured out how to take care of herself. This is what it feels like. Gentlemen, ultimately, in closing, the final thoughts are, gun is neat. I think it is cool. I didn't think a gun like this could be cool. And LTT made the gun cool, in summary. Is it something that I am saying you should go out and acquire yourself? No, I don't care what you do. This is essentially show and tell, and it serves as a Library of Alexandria for administrative results because, hey, at least we covered the PX4. I thought it was neat and worthy enough of a video. There are plenty of pistols out there in the world that you can get. I'm still going to say that a Glock 19 Gen 3 is goated in the sauce, even though there's probably better options by now, but I will die on that hill because I can, and it's funny. I appreciate you guys stopping by, checking out the video. I have nothing else for you. Godspeed.